So,
Okay.
hello and welcome to the first episode of our Scale Up series. This video is going to be a first of a series of conversations that we do globally with our founders, our partners, and our ecosystem experts. We will explore, of course, a range of topics, but we wanted to start with one that is very dear to us, one that we have seen being critical for our most successful companies, and one that is also very dear to our partner company, Icertis. For the few that don't know, Icertis is now the global leader in contract management software. Its flagship product for contract lifecycle management is used by several Fortune 5000 companies. And I'm particularly excited, honored, and privileged to have Samir Bodas, the CEO and co-founder of Icertis, join us today from Seattle. We were fortunate in many ways to partner with Samir back in 2014, 2015, and I've had a front row seat as we have seen the organization scale to really extraordinary heights under his leadership and that of his co-founder, Monish Darda. So, Samir, thank you very much for taking out the time this evening, and it's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here, Prem. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Samir. So maybe we'll kick it off with the first question. Back in the late 2000s, it's interesting and unconventional in that both you and Monish had several successful exits before Icertis. So as you were sitting around, brainstorming ideas around what your next company was going to look like, of course, beyond the product, were there some design principles that you wanted to build into your next organization from the start? And if you did have them, what were the top three or four?
That's a question we have contemplated a lot as we sort of rethink how you got to, or how we got to together, got to where we are, and obviously it's never a straight line, but sort of hindsight, you net it out and say, okay, these are the 3, 5, 7 things that you thought hard about. So let me net it out the 3 things that you said. And the assumption that I'm going to make is that the aspiration of the founder is to build a large, successful software company, like sort of dream really big, right? So if you start there, the first principle that you have to sort of think of is that to build a very large, successful software company, you have to either create a technology wave or ride a technology wave. That's the only way to build a large, successful software company. Creating a technology wave is sort of, we figured out that's way above our pay grade. It's like Gates and Jobs and Zuckerberg and Musk. These are different human beings who have created amazing waves and on which have written a lot of other companies. So the second thing is to ride a technology wave, right? And there are lots of technology waves that are going on at any one time. I mean, if you think today, space is a technology wave, rockets. Autonomous is a technology wave. AI, ML, and blockchain are technology waves. So pick a technology wave that you can ride where it's early enough because you'll have first mover advantage so that you can move, and then just hope it's going to be massive, like hundreds of billions of dollars or trillions of dollars, so that because you'll get a very small percentage of the big pie. So the first principle is sort of either create a technology wave or ride a technology wave. That's one. Second thing is, the founder should have a very honest conversation about whatever product or you come up with it, about why now and why you. Why now means, why is now the time for the mousetrap that you have built, for the product you have? And there's many angles to this. There's a TAM angle, there is a demand angle, there's a supply angle, etc., etc. But why is now the right time? And every VC will probably think about it. Why now? Why is this? Why didn't this happen before? And why is this not? Why this is this the right time? And it's not sort of too early in the cycle. So fine, why now? And the second is why you? Why do you have the product? Why do you have the capability? Why do you have the team? Why do you have whatever you need to be the substantial software company that you aspire to be? The second principle. And the for the third principle is decide very early on if you want to build a company that goes far or a company that goes fast. And they're very different principles, by the way, management principles, partnership principles, how you build the product, how you price, etc., etc. And once you decide that, stick to it. Nothing wrong with going fast and nothing wrong with going far, but it is very hard to go fast far. You cannot run if you run a sprint, 100-meter sprint in 10 seconds, you cannot run a marathon, that 100 meters multiplied by whatever number of meters it takes to be in a marathon, 26 or what have you. That's miles though. So be very, very clear in your mind about that. So make sure that you create a wave or ride a wave. Make sure that you answer very clearly and honestly why now and why you. And three, make sure that are you building a company to go fast or are you building a company to go far? I think perhaps the top three things to think about as you are thinking about doing a startup.
And that's very helpful, Samir. And I would say that having had the privilege to observe you and Monish and the company, there is an additional layer that overlays all of these, which is the unique culture that Icertis manifests. And within that culture, one of the most emphasized and used words is Forte. In fact, interestingly, when I first met you in Seattle several years ago now, that's the only topic you spoke about. We didn't speak about the company, we didn't speak about the product. Can you tell us all a little bit more about what that word means? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to the company and how all of it came about?
Sure, no. So Forte is an acronym that stands for our values, and FORTE, and the letters stand for fairness, openness, respect, teamwork, and execution. Those are values enshrined in that word. Now, the question is why enunciate your values? Why enshrine them? And then, of course, why sort of require that we live by them? And I'll go back to my business school days a long time ago in 1992 when I was graduating. I thought values and culture and things like that at that time, I was, I guess, 28 years old, was all ways for HR to get things done by employees without giving anything more to them. It was more of a ploy. And I thought at that time, guys, you put enough money in people's pockets, they'll take the pain. And to some extent, that was true, I think, in the 80s and 90s. That's sort of the culture that existed then. The value of values sort of came into focus for me when I became the CEO of a public company called Aztec. And it was a turnaround. The company was not doing well. And they appointed me the CEO to sort of turn it around. And just talking to the employees and talking to this leadership, they were a very amazing team, but they were not threaded together. They were not doing it for anything. They're just doing it for a job. And because the company was not doing well, they kind of lost faith. in the company and themselves and what they were doing. And it was very important that I thought, man, if it's only about money, this is just going to go south. And obviously, these people are not doing it for the only for the money, and they're all left, right? Because the company is not doing well. They cared, but they had lost the purpose, or they had lost why they were doing things. And that's where first time it sort of clicked in my mind that you have to give a common theme, a common North Star, common set of rules, common set of things that we all believe in, which drives what we do with respect to delivering value to customers, building a product, which is beyond that. And and we all brainstorm, why do we do what we do and how do we do it? And we came up with actually Forte in a different form then. This was 2005 to 2004, 2005, around that time. And we said, hey, whatever we do, it will be fair. We'll be open with each other and the customers and with the community. We'll be respectful. We will be team oriented. And then we will execute, get the job done. And I think that is where this whole journey started with my journey started with values and culture and how people sort of culture in the way we define it, it is sort of you take the values and you culture is how you live them, you enunciate them. And and really once you give people sort of and yourself feel, oh, I believe in these values, this is the right culture. Now my purpose is to change what is happening, and here's the long-term value that we'll deliver to the customer, and they're sort of deeper and bigger values than that you can come up with. I think you get so much more out of each individual, but more importantly, you get so much more out of it yourself. And I think that is also so important, to find joy in the job. That you say, hey, this is more than making money, which is very important because that's what put bread on the table. But there is that icing, that is that cherry, that makes it so much more sweeter to do what you do.
That's again very interesting, Samir, and I know that it is super important to you because we've had several conversations offline about the topic. Also, I think in a very unique way, it is something that you discuss with your senior leadership team at your annual offsite, where you have a separate session to talk about Forte and situations where Forte presents a dilemma. I know you've had several, but is there one that you can share with us as a situation where Forte presented a very strong dilemma for you and how you resolved it?
Yeah, just to give people background about what you just referenced, every 6 months the management team meets, and there is a half-day session during those strategy offsites, even sort of Zoom offsites, which are with 3 hours or half a day is tied to case studies about living Icertis values. And the case study is usually a challenge that a manager had faced in the previous 6 months, made a decision using the Forte framework, but it just didn't feel right to that manager. And they sort of say, hey, this is what happened, this is the decision I made. Let's sort of make it into a case study and let all the leadership teams sort of debate and discuss what happened, how do you evaluate the situation, what's the Icertis way of addressing that situation. And again, we know who the person is, Monish and I, but all that is kept anonymous, et cetera, et cetera. And the one case study that stands out in my mind, and this was very long ago, 4 or 5 years ago, where my co-founder, Monish, actually sent a text message to me and said, call me. And he never does that unless it's something very important. So whenever I see a text message from him when I wake up in the morning, because he lives in India, I live here, and it says, call me, I go, oh. So I called him. I said, Monish, what happened? And he said, Samir, I just made a decision that I just don't feel good about. I said, what happened? He said, there's this employee who was on a PEP, and I was supposed to let him go. It was a guy, let him go today. And we had done everything right. He knew how he could improve. We supported him. We were forte about the PEP. And then this morning, I was supposed to let him go. And he walked into my office. And the first thing he said was, my father is unwell and he's really unwell. Probably won't live long. And he told me that, and Monish said, I was so locked on sort of letting him go that I empathized with him about his personal situation, and I still let him go. And Monish was almost in tears. And he said, Samir, I don't know if I did the right thing. I don't think it was respectful. I don't think it was fair to him that he was going through this and I let him go. What would you have done? And I said, Monish, honestly, I don't know. Probably the same thing you did and felt terrible about it afterwards. So why don't we use this as a case study during the leadership team meeting and talk about it? And we did lay this out. And Monish, we didn't say it was Monish who faced this dilemma, whether you let an employee go who's not performing but facing a personal challenge or a situation. I guess that's the meta point there. And the team debated a lot about it. It's not an obvious decision because on one end, people said, gosh, we have the cash, what's the hurry, give him space, et cetera, why do you let him go? And there's others who said, yeah, but he is a burden on the team. He is burden, people are carrying his weight and the customer is unhappy and there is this challenging situation and he had the time and we have done everything right. We should let him go and of course help him with his grieving or at least help him with his medical stuff and something happens, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a massive debate as to what was the right way to do it. And after all this debate, we actually decided as a team that the forte thing to do would be to not let him go in that meeting, but have a time certain, and we decided 10 days. After which you have to let the employee know that we have to part ways. We'll help you in every way to, as you get through this situation, you can use your leave, you can give them extra time, but they have to know that it's not working out so that the team can move on and hire a new person and the customer they're being fair. Forte with the customer. And usually these things, these values pull in different directions. It's not very obvious that if you're fair to one person, you're potentially unfair to somebody else. You have to resolve that. And probably a long case study, but it goes to the crux of applying Forte. And what seems obvious to you at the time may not be obvious later. And what is obvious later when you talk to others, maybe a third answer. And that's what is Forte all about.
Thank you for sharing this with us, Samir. I know that it is an episode that has deeply impacted both you as well as Monish. And whenever you write a book about Icertis, I'm pretty sure that this episode will take up a chapter. But I think it really brings to life, the tussle between the value system, the culture, and then day-to-day problems and situations that a CEO and his co-founder faces in an organization. So thank you again for sharing this with us so transparently.
My pleasure. The other way to think about it, Prem, is we think about it. The values of the company are like the constitution of the company, and we'll use it in the US context, which is a very short and succinct constitution. And most all laws in the US are passed by Congress and then interpreted based on the Constitution by the Supreme Court or the judiciary. It's almost like that with the values of the Constitution, and then you sort of live them as a culture, which is. But then even there are articles in the Constitution that pull in different directions. And somehow you have to resolve that tension, which is what these value sessions are all about.
And I think the fact that you and Munish so proactively think about these and evaluate these tensions makes you stand out, I believe, amongst a lot of other entrepreneurs and founders today, and creates the company that Icertis is. Transitioning on, Samir, you closed last month yet another successful financing. This one was a Series F financing. The company is valued now close to 3 billion. And Icertis is now well on its way to becoming the contract management system of the world. But if you were to look back 5 to 10 years from today and look back at the company that you built and the organization that you have built, what would you like the organization to reflect?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I guess at a very high level, have we built a high value? And I'll tell you why I say high value in a second. High value, consequential, and enduring company that still lives its values. And let me tell you what, high value is very important because you invested in our company to get a return. Employees and myself sort of invested time and energy and emotion in the company to get a return. And the higher, I just realized this very late, the higher the value of the company, the more you can share with the employees and everybody else. So high value actually is very important. But also, it has to be consequential, where you are able to change the way customers do business. Like we say, hey, if we are become the contract management, when we become the contract management platform of the world, we would have transformed the foundation of commerce. That's consequential. Were you able to transform the foundation of commerce for your customers? But I'll go broader. Were you able to be consequential in your communities? Were you consequential in your employees' lives in a positive way? And the third thing is enduring, where I think we would love to look back and say, this what we have built will be here for a long time. Whether it's the product, whether it is we go public eventually, the stock, whatever take it, is it enduring whatever you did? And all of this, if that happens and we have lost our way with respect to values, I think Monish and I will be sad. I think it will be a dream unfulfilled. Definitely a successful dream, successful conclusion in one axis or many axes, but still incomplete. That's how I think about it.
Thank you, Samir. This has been a super interesting session, but we've got to wrap up. I guess all good things come to an end. But we've got one last question. We can't let you go without it. For everyone out there that is contemplating starting a company, creating the next Icertis, what would you say he or she should strongly consider while building teams?
While building teams, I first know this, that there's a math I did. I think I've sort of even up the numbers. But 1% of people who get an idea do something about it. Out of that, 1% sort of get that idea financed. Out of that 1%, sort of they reach about 10, $20 million of revenue. And out of that 1% build a unicorn. So know that it is hard and not easy. But you know what? It's like what John F. Kennedy said about going to the moon, right? You do it not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And if it was easy, you would have 10,000 billionaires or 100,000. It's hard. This stuff is hard. Not billionaires, but unicorn, billion-dollar companies. This stuff is hard. So know that, right? Second, and go all in. There's no half measure in doing this. Think emotionally, intellectually, etc. Go all in. And finally, dream big. You know why? Because it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to dream. And only can you dream big, can you have no fear. Don't be afraid of failure. Because I think for most of us, I would say 99% of us, if things don't go well, I think we'll be okay. Like you'll have food and go have a way of thinking that, hey, I have no fear because I'll be okay. And when you take this package and go to whoever team you're building, you talk about this stuff as opposed to the product, as opposed to whatever their job is. They will connect with you at a different level. So I'll tell you this, that like one of the things I tell leaders that are considering joining Icertis, and remember when I'm interviewing a leader, I'm buying and selling. Right, I'm selling them to come join because most of these leaders have can go wherever they want, have options, and I'm also buying because I have to make them an offer. But I tell them this: hey, if you were to join Icertis, I'm not sure you'll make lots of money because so many things have to go right, and luck and this, that, and the other. Second, I think you will learn a lot though, because we are solving some hard problems. So you learn a lot, but I think you'll learn a lot. But I can guarantee you this: you will laugh more at Icertis than you have laughed at any job in your life. Guaranteed. That's why come join us. I think so what? And that's true, by the way.
Thank you, Samir. The great thing about speaking with you is that I learn something, or in fact, a lot of new things every time I speak with you. So I'm always looking forward to every conversation that we have. But as always, an absolute pleasure, Samir. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, your insights, your perspectives, and most of all, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. The Icertis story is already an inspirational one and an amazing one, but all of us know that it is still just getting started. So with that, Samir, again, thank you, congratulations, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Prem, and I must thank you for being so supportive, being Forte, and I couldn't have asked for a better partner in you and in 8 Roads, and for that I'm very grateful. And thank you for your partnership, your guidance, and your support also, Prem. Thank you.
Thank you,
and I guess we should say thank you for being a friend.
No, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you very much.
Take care. Thanks.